You're listening to DraftKings Network.
It's done.
Connor McDavid! It's not real!
The goal of the year.
Panarin!
Part of the past. The celebrations. Forgotten. The history.
Vegas Golden Knights!
History. We're back to a blank slate. Clean ice. All that matters now is what happens next. The Stanley Cup Playoffs.
Eastern Conference Final begins Wednesday.
Now's a good time to remember where the story of tequila started. In 1795, the first tequila distillery was opened by the Cuervo family. And 229 years later, Cuervo is still going strong. Family owned from the start, same family, same land. Now's a good time to enjoy Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. Go to Cuervo.com to shop tequila or visit a store near you. Cuervo, now's a good time. Trademarks owned by Becle, SAB the CV. Copyright 2024. Proximo. Jersey City, New Jersey. Please drink responsibly.
Chris, do you know the whereabouts of Stugotz? He was here a moment ago. He was rummaging around the bacon, and then we're supposed to start, and he vanishes because I don't think he's going to enjoy everything that happens today.
He's just mud. He's coming in right now. He's just like, Knicks.
He just gave you a muttering muh under his breath, a broken muh. He knows what he's in for today.
It was fun while it lasted.
It was a good time. Everyone's afraid to play at the Mecca because it's so hard to play, and you don't want the electricity of a Game 7, and unless you have an offense that's better than any in 60 years. 60 years. Games are supposed to be low scoring in Game 7. They all look like Minnesota, Denver because everybody's sphincter gets real tight, except the Pacers.
Yeah, and Minnesota.
No, they didn't. I mean, they scored under 100 points, too. Like, it wasn't Anthony Edwards was not.
He was terrible.
Offensively, they were not good, but we don't know how to talk about defense or cover it. So I'm seeing right now, is Anthony Edwards the face of the NBA when he goes 6 for 24, and he didn't have much of anything to do with why they won last night?
Is he the face of the Timberwolves? How about that? I mean, Karl Anthony Towns. Jesus.
It is super interesting to me, our inability to celebrate defense. Do you realize that the Denver offense in that series would have ranked 30th in the league if you just took points per possession over the course of the season? Like, we all thought Gobert was a bad trade. There was nobody who was arguing that Gobert was a good trade. I didn't hear anybody making the argument anywhere in the media that Minnesota trading for Gobert was a good trade, and yet I just saw Denver's champion offense dragged into the quicksand. They've got an unstoppable player, and you've got after the game, you've got Anthony Edwards yelling and screaming in the locker room and outside the locker room that he put the handcuffs on Jamal Murray.
Mm-hmm. He was 6 of 24.
I know.
I want to hear about it.
Well, but he advances, and
he did advance. That was a big win for Minnesota. The pressure is on the T-Wolves now, Dan. You got to finish it off. Like, there are expectations now. I think they're the best team in the West, and no one believes in the Celtics. So they have expectations.
Yeah, and what, though? Like,
well, doesn't matter.
Who cares? They had expectations in that series after winning the first 2 games.
You beat the defending champs and Jokic. They have a 20-point lead. You beat them on their home court in a Game 7, and they're suddenly expectations.
Let's keep our eye on the ball. I know you're going to do a lot of this today, talking about how everyone else has expectations, not your team that lost a Game 7.
Deflecting my Knicks pain, Dan, yeah.
It's, again, a historically awful performance from the Knicks that's totally understandable because everyone for them got hurt. But you were saying when you left last week, time for the Mecca to bring one home. Time for the Mecca to win one for me, and the energy was drained out of that place immediately. They wasted the Willis Reed moment that they tried to get. They drugged up poor Anunoby in a way that that made him seem to not know where he was. They drugged him up to get the Willis Reed moment. They got the Willis Reed moment and then spent the rest of the game down by 20.
You're going to miss the Knicks. I mean, you are. I don't care what anyone says. You're going to miss them. You're going to miss the fans. You're going to miss the Mecca.
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss being able to do this show. I only get to do this show once. Only once a postseason do you get to do this show. The biggest game in Knicks history had more sad celebrities than I've ever seen in one place.
This is the Dan Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Halliburton, Stugotz, has now gotten deeper in the Eastern Conference Finals than Joel Embiid ever has. You have in Pascal Siakam someone who has twice now made it deeper into an Eastern Conference postseason than all of the process pieces. Mm-hmm. The Knicks, do you know how long their drought is without making an Eastern Conference Finals in relation to the rest of the league? Longest droughts without getting to a conference finals?
It's got to be 90s. I want to say, 30 years.
It was the year 2000. They've got the third longest drought in the sport. It's only behind the Wizards and the Hornets, the real bottom of the barrel stuff. And the loudest and biggest Knicks season, or the last two seasons, the loudest and biggest this century, eliminated by an 8, eliminated by a 6, barely squeaked past a 7. Mm-hmm. Those are the two loudest seasons in the Knicks history this century. And good God, did ESPN soak that shit in bias. I don't blame Pacers fans for being an unholy kind of upset at how that became a celebration of the Knicks, even while the Pacers, Stugotz, are putting together through three quarters the best offensive performance that there's been in a Game 7 since 1963.
Right.
They miss no shots. Mm-hmm. How is that possible that the Pacers, is it just because the Knicks were injured? Is it just because the Knicks were playing a bunch of substitute players that shouldn't have been on the court that the Pacers were able to go through the entirety of that game missing 4 or 5 shots when the game was being decided?
I mean, the Knicks have been doing that the entire series. They've been short. Their bench has been shortened. Randall's been hurt, and they played fine. They made it to a Game 7 on their home court. The Pacers had a great night. I mean, that's it. The Pacers had a great shooting night, a legendary shooting night, the greatest shooting night in the history of the NBA playoffs. There's not much you could do about it when you consider the fact that they had that night and the Knicks are depleted. They just are. I mean, everyone's hurt. Now, listen, it was a great season for the Knicks, and I'm tired of people making fun of the fans. The fans got caught up in a great moment. There were great moments throughout this playoff run, if you want to call it a playoff run, into the Eastern Conference semifinals. But enough knocking Knicks fans, okay? They were loud. They were boisterous. Why? We haven't been there in a while, and because Jalen Brunson provided us with some of the greatest moments in NBA playoff history. He did. I mean, for us. For us. I deserve it.
What happened to the Mecca being hard to play in, and you don't want to play in there in a Game 7, and the 6 seed?
This is why you don't want Game 7, Dan.
Scared.
Right.
Well, if you have confidence in your team and you're better than the other team, you should want Game 7.
Awful take.
We had no confidence in our team. What we had confidence in was the Mecca, was the fans, was that building. There is food flying out of my mouth right now. The Sphere, Dana.
What happened to the Mecca being a hard place to play? And
it is a hard place to play. It wasn't yesterday. I mean,
it's a pretty good time for it to be a hard place to play.
Yes.
That would have been a good time to summon whatever that is.
The Mecca choke, Dan.
I mean, It was awfully quiet is all I'm saying. When I'm hearing Isaiah Jackson miss a free throw so that the Pacers can merely be up 19 and everyone's really happy that the Pacers have missed a free throw, they got to within 5.
Oh, that run, though. That building was rocking.
That was the Mecca, pulling the Knicks to within 6, I think, at one point.
But what happened then? But what happened
the
after
Mecca got tired, Dan.
Yeah, did they?
Yeah.
Well, I did feel bad for Brunson. They were picking him up full court, and the intent throughout was just to bury him in fatigue. I thought Stugotz something interesting last night. Obviously, you can't go wrong if you're a coach and you play Jokic all the minutes. But he was exhausted. And the reason they got all those rebounds and all those offensive rebounds, I mean, they might have gotten him if he wasn't exhausted. He was exhausted exhausted because he was playing all the minutes, and guys that size don't play all the minutes. And at the end of the game, when that game was being decided, you saw the Timberwolves go up 12-2 because they kept getting second chances because Jokic couldn't keep all those giants. They look awfully small when Jokic is tired. When Jokic is fatigued, all of a sudden you're looking around, hey, where's their power forward? Like, where's somebody?
Where's Aaron Gordon?
Where's somebody who's going to grab it? Where's Michael Porter? Where's someone who's going to grab a rebound?
Given the nature of how he shoots the ball, I thought it would be very difficult to tell whether or not Jokic has his legs under him, because he never gets lift anyways. But by the end, they were pretty tired shots. And watching Jokic very closely last year, really for the first time, I noticed, man, 5 minutes into this game, Jokic looks tired. And then his secret to the game was he would just maintain that level of fatigue the entire time.
He always looks tired.
No, but he always looks like kind of tired, but he never crosses the threshold. Last night, we crossed the threshold. Dude looked gassed in ways that I've never seen before.
This is what I will tell you, though, as people talk about, is Anthony Edwards the face of the league, and what happens to another one-time champion, Stugotz? Not enough people are going to talk about the decision to play Jokic all of the minutes, and in the fourth quarter, Minnesota rebounded 70% of its misses.
Yeah.
Like, when they come back from 20 and Denver can't score, because Denver being in that series, Stugotz, because of the Minnesota defense, the 30th ranked offense, if we put what they did in this series in the regular season, they would have been one of the worst offenses in the league. They don't do well when they score fewer than 100 points. How is it that we don't get more expertise in the coverage that focuses on defense while we obsess about offense all of the time, Stugotz?
Who wants to focus on defense, Dan? Honestly.
Well, that's the reason Minnesota won, though. Mm-hmm. Like, you might not want to focus on it. You can focus on all the other reasons that you think they won, but the reason they won is because they wore the hell out of Jokic with their big people, just like JuJu said. I assume that's why JuJu's dancing. JuJu, don't throw your hands up as if you haven't been dancing for 7 minutes.
I mean, Dan, you're a humble participant here, guys. I'm just happy to be alive.
Sure you are. I mean, you're making a great point. The Nuggets had 37 points in the second half. I mean, think about that. 37 points in the second half.
Well, I want to ask you something about how the sport is changing, because I will say to you, get used to the idea that a team will come back from 15 down in a Game 7. That's the first time that that's happened. It's the first time it's happened on the road, but get used to that. Once the three-pointer becomes that kind of important, you're going to get these wild shifts in scores, because it didn't mean much that Denver was up 58-38 in the first half. It didn't mean much that Barkley and others were saying, get Gobert off the court, because he can't do anything to defend Jokic. But clearly, them throwing Reed, Karl Anthony Towns, and Gobert at Jokic presents a set of problems that no one else in the league can present for Denver. Nobody makes Denver look like that. Miami with Bam Adebayo did some of that last year and didn't have the offense to overcome it and lost in 5 games. That's not something that you see from a championship level offense. And the thing that I wanted to ask you that's also changing now, the era of the super team was great for the winning of championships. But now, in a sport that is traditionally super predictable, you have a 5, a 6, a 3, and a 1, and you're going to have your 6th champion in 6 years. And each time they win the championship, they tend to break apart, too. Toronto is in no way in any realm what they were with Kawhi Leonard and Siakam. And I always heard that dynasties were seen as bad for the sport, but I don't think that this is better. I like it. I wouldn't have liked Jokic winning 3 or 4 straight titles. I don't think that would have been fun for anybody. I think it would have felt a little bit like San Antonio winning the titles, where people,
boring.
Lil Wayne can't even explain. He's just, I don't like Jokic's game. I don't like watching any of that. That's not for me. That unstoppable excellence, that's not how I want basketball to look. Is 6 champions in 6 years good for the sport?
Well, the ratings would indicate no. I know that they're in a different place, but sports across the board are up, and the NBA is struggling. Some of that's due to the sport changing, but the poison that met the super teams such as the Miami Heat and the Golden State Warriors kind of scared players away from it. It scared Kevin Durant away from winning other titles because he wanted to do his own thing, and not a lot of people are comfortable being the bad guy. I don't think this is great in a vacuum when you had the Spurs having their run, Lakers mixed in there, the Heat, dating back to the Rockets and Bulls. You always longed for a day where there was a little bit more parity in the sport, and now that we have it, I'm not sure I love it.
You guys sound like losers.
I am one. I mean,
Jokic had 4 rebounds in the second half. 4 in the second half, and they just came at him with wave after wave of just giant bodies.
I understand what you're saying. He was tired. They wore him down. They have 3 guys they could throw at him. He did have 34 points and 19 rebounds
understood.
in a Game 7.
I know, but Stugotz, their offense was bad.
I know.
And it doesn't matter if you're getting to 90 points against the number 1 defense in the sport. You're going to give up the 20-point lead. You allowed way too many second-chance shots. And Denver's championship was over the moment that Rudy Gobert hit that turnaround jumper.
There we are. I am going to tell my grandchildren's children about the night Rudy Gobert shot a ball into the heavens, and it came down not touching the net.
It was unbelievable. It's the way. I did not have Jokic being slain that way. If you could have predicted for me all the ways, if you had come to me, I don't know, 24 months ago and said, look, this is what's going to happen. This guy who keeps getting played off the court because he no longer fits. He's a dinosaur trying to fight against fighter jets. It doesn't fit on the court the way the sport is changing. But this is what's going to happen in a couple of years. Jokic, who's a 3-time MVP, is going to put down his sword because Rudy Gobert's hitting a turnaround jumper that he's floating higher than the shot clock because he's panicked and there's nowhere else to put the ball except throw it toward the basket because the shot clock is expiring.
Enjoy your horses.
But you tell me, if you're Jokic in that game.
Evil voice.
But think about this, though. You're exhausted. You're sitting here saying, oh, really? Again with the 6th man of the year with a putback? Again with Carl? But I've kept Gobert out of here, and now it's Karl Anthony Towns who's going to have the putback. You're exhausted. You want to go see your horses. It's been 2 long years. And then that shot goes in. You're like, I'm going to keep running up and down the court, but I'm thinking of vacation now. I'll keep going. I'll keep trying.
Going through the motions.
I will physically go through the motions. You will see me motioning as if my season is not over. But once that falls from the sky, you've got to be like, okay, this is meant for me. I am destined.
It's not in the cards,
to just go rest somewhere for the remainder of the season.
Stugotz here for my friends over at Simply Safe. When you travel, do concerns back home nag you? Did you lock up? Did you leave a window open? That's why I recommend investing in Simply Safe Home Security today for award-winning security and peace of mind wherever your summer plans take you. I've had Simply Safe in my home for many years now. The peace of mind it gives me, especially during the summertime when I'm all over the place, is incredible. Because I know the things I care about, the things I value back home. I can always keep an eye on it using Simply Safe's indoor and outdoor cameras. So do me a favor. Before you head out on your next vacation, make sure to protect your whole home with Simply Safe's variety of indoor and outdoor cameras, plus add sensors to detect break-ins, fires, floods, and more. It's backed by 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day, no contracts to worry about, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Simply Safe has given me and many of my listeners real peace of mind. I want you to have it too. So right now, get 20% off any new Simply Safe system with Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Don Le Batard. Sub 500 seasons, it's been lonely. Now the best players on our side. Been losing and losing for much too long. But now we're back with New York pride. Stugotz. Jalen. You've got us on our feet, Jalen. We're gonna win the East, Jalen. Without Randall, we're still doing fine. This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
But getting back to Stugotz's beloved New York Knicks, they wasted the Burks game.
They did. I told you, 20 points any given night.
And Stugotz was right.
Thank you.
Holy Stugotz was right.
Stugotz was also right to field down, even though he was up 3-2.
And Stugotz was right. Holy Stugotz was right.
The thing that's crushing is to have the expectation of this is going to be the most electric building we've had this century, and then nothing all game long. Pushed back again and again by Miles Turner.
By shooting.
Whoever that was on the front row, they did this. To whoever Tyrese Halliburton was talking to, I didn't know if it was Sam Morrow, I don't know who is, but that person is responsible for the Knicks' demise. I'm saying it on wax.
I mean, all those funny people from New York we brought through this show, and to all be undone by Andrew Nembhard.
Right, I hope we got Mero, Sam Morrow, everybody on here today, right?
Sam Morrell is going to be on here in a little while. Yes, I'd like to circle back, though, on East Coast bias, Stugotz. And I've been talking about this for a while because one of the places that I saw this change was on Pardon the Interruption, where I see Michael Wilbon tucking his Cubs jersey into his jeans and going out there and throwing a first pitch. And I was like, oh, okay, we're doing the sports journalists are allowed to have allegiances thing.
That's the day journalism died, Dano. It is. Yeah.
Put it on the poll, JuJu at Batard show. When Wilbon threw out the first pitch at a Cubs game, is that the day journalism died? But yesterday on the show, and I'm not going to go back into the well that I've gone into very often that gets people upset about how the power shift has changed at ESPN, but at least in part, because Stephen A. Smith is a very public Knicks fan. The coverage of that game beforehand, Stugotz, was Spike Lee and motivational speech from Stephen A. Smith as a Knicks fan, and it was very celebrating all things New York, the same way that the big networks celebrate the Cowboys and the things that get ratings. But to me, if I'm a Pacers fan, the part that pisses me off is the last 4 minutes of that game, a historic game for the Pacers, only Breen every once in a while would bring it back to the Pacers. It was the Knicks that they were talking about the whole time. And if I were a Pacer fan, I'd be mad at how slanted that coverage was.
But Pacer fans won the series. They're moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have the last laugh. Who cares about that stuff? No, Dan, the story yesterday, win or lose, was about the Knicks. It was about those fans. It was about that building. That was the story headed into the game. The story changed once the game got started. But before the game, what do you want ESPN to cover? The Pacers?
Stugotz, when you say who cares, sports fans care about perceived disrespect. And this was disrespectful. Like, I'm not a fan of either of the teams I'm watching. I see one winning, the other losing, and the one that's being talked about is the losers as if they're the winners when they shit the bed at home, although there were valid reasons.
I saw it on Awful Announcing. Bob Myers was asked at halftime, what are you seeing from this Pacer team to come out so electrified in that first half? And he immediately talks about OG Anunoby, and it becomes a soliloquy about the New York Knicks, even though he was asked directly about what he's seeing from the Pacers.
You tell me how I'm supposed to feel if I'm a Pacers fan, and this is the third different roster that's made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you're still talking to me about the Knicks, who have the longest drought outside of the Wizards and Hornets.
I get it, though. That like we've detailed the struggles and ratings from where they used to be. One thing that definitely rates for the NBA is the New York Knicks, and ESPN now is a propaganda machine for the broadcast they own the rights to. And what is getting people in, they see the metrics. I guarantee you they're going to talk Dallas Cowboys today on First Take. Because they have the metrics to support, they need to be talking Dallas Cowboys every day.
Mike, fast forward to the Eastern Conference Finals. The story is going to be about the Celtics. Win or lose, it's going to be about Boston. Dan, no one cares what anyone in Evansville thinks about the coverage, okay? No one does, okay? Gary, Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana, please, okay? Nobody cares what those people think about the coverage. They are moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's it. That's enough for them. ESPN did the right thing. They covered the right team, the right city, because that was the story headed into the game.
I would dispute that on a couple of different fronts on behalf of Indiana fans. One of them would be this. The Knicks had two turnovers while getting slaughtered in that first half. The Pacers got one free throw. Like midway through the second quarter, one free throw. Do you know how hard it is to win on the road under those circumstances by blowout? It's not that the Knicks played poorly. It's just they endured a historic onslaught that was being ignored because we were talking about how injured the Knicks were and how bad you felt that now Jalen Brunson is out with a fractured hand.
You mentioned the East Coast bias, and I think we have a Sunday night bias in that what happened on Saturday in that sport was also really rad. Kyrie Irving is now 14-0 in closeout games, and that game looked over. And they come all the way back, and Luka Doncic appears to be the kind of irresistible force with a triple-double that maybe Jokic was last year. And for me, that is the story. I mean, Luka Doncic getting emotional talking about Kyrie Irving, who very quietly has become a leader on that team, has fit in nicely, has not at all been a distraction, has been that piece, and is now fulfilling the promise.
It's crazy.
He's doing for the Mavs what he was supposed to do for the Boston Celtics.
There are two bits of analysis that everybody whiffed on in the new NBA. It was the Gobert trade that everyone got wrong, and the idea that Dallas wasn't a good fit for Kyrie Irving. You mentioned OKC, Choklahoma City, and now your hearts are Broklahoma City.
Bars. Wow. Mixtape coming soon.
That was good.
They had at 1 a.m. a bunch of fans at the airport like it's a college town, and when you say who cares, Stugotz?
Right.
That's who cares.
Okay, great.
Okay, but
I'm talking about Terre Haute, Indiana.
But you don't care that way anymore, and you would care. You would care that way if you'd won.
Listen, I've never cared enough to meet my team at the airport after they've lost. Actually, I've never cared enough to meet my team at the airport after they've won.
You're not emblematic,
Dan.
here.
People who show up to the airport late at night to applaud their team coming off a plane because they had a good season.
It's weird.
Please, it's sad. Yeah.
Don't do this, brothers. Y'all teams are losers. That's it. Don't lash out. Y'all are at home. That is all that's happening here.
It's a fair criticism to bring up the lack of Pacers coverage, but this show doing it is like we covered the Knicks more than anyone during the
but wait a
party.
minute.
Guiltiest party.
Absolutely.
WFAT,
Absolutely. We are the guiltiest party, and hypocrisy is looking at me in the mirror, but I will say it was only to get to today. Understand that.
And audience acquisition.
Understand that I knew today was coming at some point this season.
You knew you were getting there.
I knew I was going to get there somehow. I was going to get this day.
Damn you.
There was no chance. All the other teams could be as injured as the Knicks, and the Knicks were not going to have a day where I was going to eat it at the end. That's not what was going to happen. The whole of that was strategic. We turned into WFAT. We got bloated.
WFAT. Speaking of WFAT t-shirts are right now available on LebatardAF.com. Go get you 7 of them.
WFAT. Fire Tom Thibodeau, trade OG, get rid of him, don't re-sign him. Hartenstein as well. Just light up the phone lines today, boys, and enjoy your 20 share. Oh,
you will be able to talk. I'm a little scared at what's going to happen live with Sam Morrell because he's not going to be happy. He's going to be running dark, but he's going to give, I'm imagining, because he's positivity guy about this team, I'm assuming that what he's going to do is just be proud of that team's heart and fight, which it was overmanned, outmanned. It was not healthy enough, but I thought the home stadium was supposed to get you a game.
Yeah.
I thought it was supposed to get you an important game.
It got us game 5.
They have very valid injury concerns, and they probably would have been smoked by Boston, who I think we can now look at it. What a flat track they have to get back to the NBA Finals.
They have to win it, right?
They've got to beat the Pacers without Porzingis, and without Porzingis, Mike, you laugh, but without Porzingis, they're a small team, they're a different team, they're a bit positionless.
What I'm laughing is I'm remembering the YouTube cold open where Stugotz was formulating this, all the pressures on the Timberwolves take. What are you talking about?
Wow.
If Tatum doesn't do it now,
right?
Like if he doesn't do it this time,
if not now, when?
We better crush him. I'm talking LeBron 2010, crush him.
I want a Tatum Edwards final so I can crush somebody. I mean, that's what I'm looking for.
I want to crush
on Dallas.
I want to crush the Knicks doctors for doing that to Anunoby for that result. That guy's not going to be able to see straight for several months because he played those minutes trying to get that Willis Reed moment. How do you waste the Willis Reed moment?
Folks, listen up. I want to talk to you about PXG and their new Black Ops driver. You no longer have to sacrifice distance for accuracy, for forgiveness. Folks, those days are done. You get both of those things with this new driver because I went to one of their PXG locations and I tested it out myself. And my boy Mike over there, if you're in Fort Lauderdale, you got to go to that location. He took care of me there. It was quick. It was efficient. By the time I got into my car, I had my email where my clubs were going to be sent. I have them now. It is a beautiful thing. What an experience. The PXG Black Ops driver is a breakthrough in driver technology. It's a complete, total victory in golf club engineering, unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's adjustable to deliver a combined MOI of 10,000. I'm telling you, that is ridiculously high. You got to check it out. The PXG Black Ops driver. You'll be as impressed as I was. Learn more and get free shipping on all the equipment at pxg.com/Dan. Use code Dan at checkout. That's pxg.com/Dan. Code Dan for free shipping on all equipment. pxg.com/Dan. Code Dan.
Dan Le Batard.
I'm just here to say one thing. The Knicks are back.
Stugotz.
Tyrese Halliburton, 6 points, fraud. Everybody was like, yo, he's better than Jalen Brunson. He's better than the Knicks should have drafted him. Fraud.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I don't believe, in all honesty, Stugotz, that you can have something happen to your team when you're going in with the expectation of the Mecca will win us one. It's a game 7. The Mecca will carry us even though we're undermanned. I don't think there's something that can neutralize that more than me saying this sentence. The Pacers had more points through 3 quarters than any team since the 1963 Celtics.
Amazing.
The idea that you think your home crowd, that you would be motivated by the epic fart after Game 5 and that you would literally run out of gas in Game 7 and get run over by the Pacers putting together a historic shooting performance. What happened between Game 1 and the rest of the games to Halliburton? Because I didn't want to object to the expertise of Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes when they said he's not a number 1. But when he was healthy this year, he looked to me like a number 1. He looked to me like someone who could shoot from anywhere on the court, even though he's a distributor. And I'm not sure going forward if I'm willing to say that Halliburton's not going to keep getting better, given that he tried to come back early from injury just so that he can hit that performance bonus that he has if he's all NBA. If you're all NBA and you're the lead player on a team, like the Pacers, a team that's in the Eastern Conference Finals, you're a number 1.
You think he is a number 1 or can be a number 1?
I'm saying that I would like that.
He is
he's the number 1 on that team. Yeah.
I would like that at the top of my team if they're going to play that way. If the way they're going to play is be the most explosive offense
For a game, Dan.
But it's not for a game. Stugotz, it's been all season. Their offense has been extraordinary.
No, I understand that. But what they did in even with that said, what they did in Game 7 was historical. It was amazing.
Stugotz, Halliburton's younger than the entire Knicks core.
He's a really fun player to watch catch fire because of the nature of his shooting form. When he starts feeling it and it just bombs away with such a high arch on it,
it's baffling.
It is really fun to see.
It's one of the many evolutions in the sport that continues to confuse me. How it's a good shot for a guy to roll to his left on the three-point line and just throw up some Gobert bullshit that just sky raindrop, and then it's in the basket, and you're like, what the hell is that?
But you ask, how could he be, or is he a number one? Or you think he's a number one? Dan, he had games where he had 8 points, 13 points, 15 points.
The only reason I don't think he's a number one is just because the top 12 number ones are so good that they make it so that we're spoiled that guy's range, because Stugotz, the sport has changed.
Yep.
To have that kind of range is an uncommon value. And so he might score differently than others. And by the way, he loves assists, but he is the centerpiece of why it is that offense does what it does. But they also traded for Siakam because they knew that he needed somebody next to him that Brunson doesn't have.
You mentioned Siakam, and I'm recalling what you did at the start of the show where you mentioned Tyrese Halliburton made it to a conference finals before Joel Embiid. I got this from a Pascal Siakam Stan account. It's Siakam Spin V2. Embiid was drafted in 2014. Pascal Siakam was studying to be a priest in 2012, found basketball, got drafted in 2016, won a G League Finals MVP, was a role player, won Most Improved, made his first conference finals, won a championship, made an All-Star and All-NBA teams, got traded, turned 30, and made another conference finals, all before Embiid went to his very first conference final.
It's a bit crazy to say, and at no point with the expectations of being a number one. Always being a number two for pressure purposes, unlike Embiid, who is the only thing in the last 2 years to unravel at the feet of the Knicks that way. To see the Sixers not advance into these Eastern Conference Finals when if I put that Sixers roster next to that Pacers roster, and I'm giving you a coach in the Pacers, Stugotz, who hadn't won a playoff series since 2011.
Right.
That style of play. I understand that you're making fun of Gary, Indiana.
I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying don't object to the coverage. You
some
won.
gangsters in Gary, though, big brother. I'm just warning you. There's some gangsters in Gary and Michael Jackson from Gary.
I know.
I would not be doing what Stugotz is doing for a number of reasons, but one of them is why wouldn't you want to have the style of play the Pacers play? I would love to have the style of play of my team. In fact, I'm willing to say that style of play, just aesthetically, give me a 6 seed that plays that way instead of a 2 seed, just for my team that plays like the Knicks, if I know that neither of them are going to have a chance, but one of them's going to have a chance if they make all of their threes on a given night.
The Pacers, during the regular season this year, in the Eastern Conference, had the highest frequency of open shots and the best effective field goal percentage on those open shots. And that's what you saw in the first quarter last night when they ran the Knicks out of the building. They had 39 points in the first quarter without taking a free throw. That's how open they were for all of these shots.
I love watching them play basketball. It's confusing to me to watch them play playoff basketball, especially in that building, because what I'm used to in that building is the score 78-75, and Anthony Carter has to make a shot that goes in from behind the backboard because everything has been dragged totally into the mud, and they're just going up and down the court at turbo speed and doing a bunch of things near the rim.
Wait, so you're excited for the next series? You wanted Pacers and Celtics.
If you give me a choice, excuse me, Stugotz, I'm sorry, but I would have liked just to see what Atlanta and Indiana could do against Boston, because give me the games in the 120s and the 130s and the 140s. Don't drag it into the mud.
We haven't mentioned the secret weapon, the most powerful weapon in Indiana. Timothy John McConnell.
Enough of him.
When he starts pumping up the crowd,
it's unbelievable.
When he makes all of his points are loud as hell. His rebounds is loud. His charges he takes is loud. Salute to Timothy for keeping them boys in line.
TJ McConnell, if I was playing against it, he did this to the Heat in a game they needed late in the regular season. He's exasperating to play against because it's Arnold from accounting. Taking off his tie, getting on the court. How tall is TJ McConnell? Because he's taller than he looks, but he's not very tall because everybody on that court is taller than you think they are.
He's 6'1". You're saying he's a tall 6'1"?
I'm saying that next to you, he would look very tall on that court. He does not look very tall. He'd be taller than most of the people who work on our show. The majority of people on our show are not as tall as tiny TJ McConnell.
TJ McConnell's 32 years old.
Wow.
His teeth are like 10 months.
He's got a perfect haircut at all times. It looks like he just stepped out of the shower, and I don't
Or the dentist office.
I don't understand how everybody isn't blocking his shot, how all of those mid-range jumpers are going in, because that is a lifetime of survival of the fittest. That guy has learned how to shoot over the outstretched fingers of someone taller than him since he was a toddler. That guy's been working on that for the last 30 years. The hands near him don't bother him, and it is exasperating to try and play defense against him because what's he doing? Oh, he's in the key again. There's another 8-footer from TJ McConnell. I've guarded all the other people who look like basketball players on the court, but the guy who's an architect got me with a mid-range jumper, and I'm exasperated. How did we feel about celebrity sadness yesterday? Photos of Spike Lee. They got Ben Stiller at one time picking at his nose in an embarrassing moment. Chris Cody, who did you see out there that gave you a feeling as a Heat fan of the only good feeling left for Heat fans? It's rooting against other people to lose.
It was between sad Spike Lee with his hands under his chin, or it was Jon Stewart just looking like he was about to cry. But John Starks trying to be the official a few times in the game was also funny, trying to make calls that were clearly wrong.
Their alumni row is really funny.
Yeah.
Just because it's a bunch of guys that didn't do it either.
Marcus Camby.
Correct. Yes. But they went to the finals.
I saw Marcus Camby described as Knicks legend, and I was like, ooh.
I mean, it's all we got.
Legend is doing a lot of work there.
I think so.
Put it on the poll, JuJu.
Those losers on the screen.
Put it on the poll, JuJu at Batard Show. Is Marcus Camby a Knicks legend? Yes or no? Because I really do feel like we're diluting what the word legend means.
The most legendary thing, salute to Marcus Camby. I'm a big Marcus Camby fan. But this has just outgrown everything. The meme with him doing this.
Yep. The Camby man.
That became like a Heat Twitter rallying cry, the Camby thing.
Speaking of the Heat, and Dan mentioned that Heat fans are rooting for other teams to lose, Indiana and the Celtics, Mike, because you have a history with both those teams. Who would you rather see advance here?
Oh, Indiana. Yeah, Indiana. Yeah. I think it would be really funny if Boston fails again. And I'm not going to let Mike Scherr do what he did in his last appearance, which was try to couch that making it to the finals would be good enough. No, this franchise has only won one title while I've been alive. They got to do it. See it.
Not only won one title, right, Stugotz? This is not unlike what the Cowboys get in football, where they get all of the great broadcasting jobs because of the star on the helmet, even though it didn't produce very many titles after after Troy Aikman. The people who have eaten off of that one title, whether it's Kendrick Perkins or Doc Rivers, when you can make the argument that the one title the Celtics have won this year this century represents an underachievement from what is supposed to be our most historic franchise. There are a lot of people who've gotten good jobs off of the one title that they've won and gotten media careers because they basically won as much as Kawhi Leonard won the one time, as much as Jokic has won the one time. It's pretty impressive to see the amount of work that Doc Rivers gets despite all the other failure around the one title.
He's gotten 7 good jobs off of that title.
Yeah, I got to say, watching the Pacers, nothing really bothers me because all those players came and went. The Heat don't have a rivalry with Halliburton, maybe a little bit with Miles Turner, but I will say when I see Carlisle on the sideline, that does kind of irk me.
Yeah.
Do you realize, Stugotz, that if the Mavs win, the highest seed the Celtics would have seen would have been the Cavs? If the Mavs win that series, I don't know, because like I've said, it has been, until the recent changes to the sport, a very predictable sport. But 5, 6, 3, and a 1 as seeds, I don't remember the last time I saw that. And while I think the Celtics have been overwhelmingly better than everyone all year, not without Porzingis. They really need Porzingis in order to win the championship.
Howdy, listeners. It's Mike, and a lot has changed over the years. Just look at sports. There's instant replay, a three-point line, there were shifts and then not shifts. But one thing that hasn't changed over the course of all those things I just mentioned, the great taste of Miller Lite. That's right. It's so good. And it's also less filling. So what's the best thing about Miller Lite, the original light beer? Well, Miller Lite sparked this debate way back in 1975. We still haven't settled it. Be like me. I don't pick one. I like it because it's both. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's a beer that strips away everything that you don't need and holds on to what matters most. You don't have to choose what's best. Be like me. Say both. Miller Lite, great taste, and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs and premium regular beer.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.